Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, January 5th, 2024, our first episode of the new year. I'm your host, Louie Butko, and coming up on today's show, in a story that has dominated the trends all week, we'll get the latest on the Jeffrey Epstein list. As a third set of documents released today, the host of Trending Now, Nicole Martin, has been on this story all week and makes her podcast debut with the latest. A new Star Wars movie featuring Daisy Ridley's Rey, and the first to be directed by a woman and person of color, is drawing the ire of so-called fans as they take to social media with racist and misogynistic tweets. Trending Now producer Laura Sebben joins us later on with the details. And a busy week of sports kicked off with a historic first game in the Professional Women's Hockey League and continues with some big matchups in the NFL. We'll talk ball with Jason Gaidola to wrap up the show. But we start with our friend Nicole Martin making her podcast debut on the show that she launched. And I do have to say, when you and Laura pitched the show,
yes,
a podcast was a part of it. It was a big part of the show.
Yeah, and I was sad that it didn't happen before I left on maternity leave, but I was the first, I think, to retweet. You were. Podcasts are happening. I was like, yeah, we're making it happen.
So it'll be 1 year in February since we've started. The show launched in October of last year.
Yeah,
so it took a couple of months for us to get this show off the ground. I was saying to somebody the other day, the first podcast I did, I was like leaning on the sports desk with a VJ microphone into a camera. The levels were awful. Now we got this beautiful set. I mean, Mike Corson, we got a real director in this control room. Is it everything you've dreamed of? This podcast, I mean.
Lights, camera, action. You. Oh my gosh, you're such an incredible host.
Oh, okay.
It's fabulous listening to you, watching you. I mean, we have to say, this is the Weekend reunited. We did the Weekend show together. And I just loved our banter. I love going back. You're so talented. The show needs you, and I love you on it.
Listen, this show would be nothing, obviously, without you and Laura and your ideas. And enough of the mutual praise.
Each other here.
Yeah, mutual praise club here. How was your mat leave?
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, saying it's great would be a little stretch, I would say. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Way more work than I ever anticipated. And not to get too dark and heavy, but man, I was not expecting to have postpartum at all. And that was a real thing that I experienced. So going through that, the whole new phase of becoming a mom and everything that goes with it, it has been a wonderful experience. So at the end of the day,
it's great to have you back. We will say you were missed, and like I say, it's great to have you back on this show, on the podcast debut. So let's jump right into it, because this Jeffrey Epstein list has dominated the trends all week. We thought we were getting it on the first. We get some documents; they start to trickle out. A new batch of documents today. The third. What do we know? What's the latest?
Oh my gosh! Well, it was crazy, because even every single show we would go in, we'd do the report, and then we'd come out with breaking news. Okay, they've been released now. A lot of the information are things we already knew. They're people we already knew. We knew Clinton was going to be in it. We knew Trump was going to be listed in it, although there was no allegations of wrongdoing from Trump. I'll point that out. But Prince Andrew, lots and lots of allegations. Some of the things we did not know that were going to be coming out, renowned physicist Stephen Hawking. Like to have orgies, apparently, allegedly, on the so-called pedophile island of Jeffrey Epstein. So that was a shocker when that came out. People like Michael Jackson, David Copperfield, we know, according to these documents, they were at Epstein's Palm Beach home. So there were more names that came out. But I have to say, too, going on social media, you see a million lists that are fake.
Yeah.
Fake lists. So part of the stories this week, too, Aaron Rodgers. We talked a lot about that.
That one, yeah. I mean, I've seen some with Justin Trudeau, you know, all the Photoshop, and I've noticed that, because Elon Musk has been talking about this too, right? He's taken to Twitter. I've noticed that on the ones that feature Jimmy Kimmel, on the ones that feature Trudeau, there's not a lot of those community notes that say this is not true. Here is a link to the 843 documents. You can control F yourself. You will not find these names.
No, exactly.
And Elon Musk is part of that. Aaron Rodgers, he's retweeting those things. You know, we saw the Pat McAfee apology, if we want to call it that.
I think he was just saving his own butt.
Yeah, I mean, because this is it. Obviously, it's mainstream because it's been trending all week. The accusations, what Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of is disgusting. What Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of is disgusting. But there's a lot of speculation, and with this list, it just continues that speculation, doesn't it?
Well, it really does, and I think the one really tough thing is that Epstein had a conviction, but it was in the early 2000s, and some downgraded charges there. Really, the whole front of this, the fact that this was a real child sex trafficking ring, that was supposed to go to trial, and we know that Jeffrey Epstein died, and the reports have all suggested it was by suicide. And so all of those victims, we know over 500 victims, never really saw their day in court against Epstein. So a lot of the lawyers we've been speaking to this week have said this might be the closest thing that they will get to closure by the release of these documents. And it really gives you some nitty gritty of the circle that Epstein had, the way that they use money and power to continue this for all of these years. And Ghislaine Maxwell, yes, she was found guilty, convicted, I think, on 5 of 6 counts. She's serving 20 years in jail. She still denies any wrongdoing. But that might be the only other piece of closure that they have, is that the co-conspirator is in jail where she belongs.
Yeah, I mean, just the conspiracy theories that have, basically since the day Epstein died in prison have been nonstop. And anytime you see a name, it continues that conspiracy theory. I mean, we can say one of the videos you did on Monday on the release of the list was one of the most viewed within 24 hours. It was one of the most viewed videos we've put on Trending Now YouTube. 500,000 views within 24 hours. Is it?
Yeah, over 20. We're closer to 1 million.
Close to 1 million. I mean, like, people, why do you think this interest is here? Because it's such high profile people, because of social. I mean, I don't think this story gets the legs it does 20 years ago without Twitter and without the mix of conspiracy theories and, the operatives who are out there putting this false narrative out there.
I think this is so high profile because of the people involved, because of the allegations against the people involved. We have organizations that are running countries. We have Clinton's name listed over 73 times in the first batch alone. And some of those allegations were quotes saying, Epstein apparently was quoted saying that he liked them young. We have pictures of all of these high-profile politicians, former President Donald Trump, hanging out with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew, so now we have the British monarchy involved.
Which, I mean, we've known that, right?
And
I mean,
he paid a settlement, $16 million settlement to the victim, Virginia Giuffre. So we know that there has to be some involvement here, and I think that's why when you have such high-profile people, you can't help but wonder, are there cover-ups involved? So I can see why the conspiracy theories maybe go a little crazy. I've gone down a few rabbit holes, but you're just like,
it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah.
How did all of this happen, and how did it go on so long?
What happens next?
What happens next?
What's the, like, with this? Are there more documents to come? What happens after today with this third batch?
Oh yeah, so there's more to come.
Okay.
There's more to come. We have potentially hundreds of more documents, and within each document, there's hundreds of pages because they include things like depositions that could be. Each deposition could be 100 pages long. So
and that's like every word, right? That's objection, question, Your Honor. Every line is there.
Everything. So there's still more to come with that. But I did ask one of the lawyers this week who represented 12 of Epstein's victims, is this the end? And he hopes it's the end for the survivor's case, because you can only imagine all of these young women who were girls, children. Let's point that out there, children at the time. Just seeing his face, reliving it. But at the same time, Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, for example, put out a statement this week saying that it's really shining a light. They want their story known. They want to know that this has happened. So future sex traffic rings hopefully would never happen again.
It's obviously it's a story. It's not going away. It dominated the trends. I think 4 out of the 5 days we've at least had something, if not all 5.
We're predicting next week is going to be the same.
Yeah. A big January 1st, your first day back, starting on a holiday, because that's how we do it in TV.
That's how we do.
I loved January 1st being on a Monday.
Yes.
Because because I was working and it helped me get into the routine. Normally, you'll think like New Year. I've been saying this I was on Morning Live doing some remotes this week. So I've been saying New Year, New You. Because I was at the Y and then I was doing a nutrition segment at Fortino. So I've been saying New Year, New You, all that fun stuff. Because a lot of people make resolutions. And I like the day, the first being like, okay, I'm going to be not hungover because I got to work. I'm not going to party too hard on New Year's. And like, A Monday is a perfect day to start for a refreshment, or in this case, dry January for me.
So you're taking part?
I am taking part in dry January.
Oh, good for you,
Thank
Louie.
you. Thank you.
For
I'm 5
you.
days in. I haven't been getting the sweats or anything like that. Me and my buddies have tried to push each other. You did a story on dry January. The health effects. Watching the story, I did it just because I was like, you know what, I've had a bit too much. But the health effects of dry January, you talk to a doctor who's got a lot of them.
Yes. So I think the top one he mentioned was sleep. How have your sleeps been?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I'm not a great not a great sleeper in the sense that I can get like 7 hours, but I might be up like half an hour after I fall asleep, or I might be up an hour before I'm supposed to be awake type thing. So I'm a weird sleeper, but I've never really had a problem with it, but I haven't noticed it.
Well, we'll check in at the end of the month. The other thing I want you to do, what one doctor told me about, take a photo of yourself now. Take a photo of yourself at the end.
Okay.
You will look younger. You will look younger.
I'm a little scared about this.
Why?
Because the benefits are going to be so good. Like, that's what I'm worried about, Nicole. Like, I'm worried about, like, what if I'm like 15 pounds lighter? I got perfectly clear skin. I'm sleeping 9 hours uninterrupted. Like, what? Like, what do I do after that?
Any wrinkles you might have are to slowly fade away.
Elisa in the makeup room is going to be like, I don't need to do anything to you. I don't need to
cover up.
So that's my resolution. That's kind of dry January. We'll see how it goes. Me and my buddies. Do you do resolutions at all?
I usually do. It's usually workout related, or I'll never stick to them. I'm going to do this, and I never do. No, this year I especially made it like I can't put anything more on my...
Coming back, first day, January 1st. You had enough focus.
Is making it. Okay. I'm going to make it.
You've done it 5 days. How you feeling? Because 5 days in a row. Just to let people know, you were back a little bit.
Yes.
Easing your way into it. A couple of days in December. But the 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
It's been a wave. It's been good though, I think. Yeah, but especially by today, I'm feeling a lot better now. Yeah. It's just getting that routine. I've got a meal prep now, not just for me, but for a little baby at home, because I miss her dinners too. So. And my husband, who's also named Luke.
Great name. Great name.
He's not a good cook, so I have to make sure that everything is done. So it's just a lot of preparation. So I guess my New Year's resolution, I'll just make it right now, is just being organized.
There you go.
Being organized for the year.
You got to get ready for the show?
Yes.
So thank you so much for doing this. I will see you on the show. I got a lot of sports stuff coming up for you, okay?
Can't wait.
All right. My thanks, Nicole Martin, for joining me today. All right, we shift gears here. This is a good one actually, we'll get to the good one, that being the Tetris game. I do want to get to the latest news out of Harvard, as Harvard's president, Claudine Gay, has resigned, marking the shortest tenure in the university's history. Now, this all comes amid a firestorm of controversy from plagiarism accusations and to her botched testimony before Congress. Now, Gay announced her departure on Tuesday, just months into her tenure at the esteemed Ivy League university. She and the presidents of MIT and the University of Pennsylvania came under fire last month for their lawyerly answers to a line of questioning about whether calling for the genocide of Jews at campus rallies would violate the college's code of conduct. Now, Gay isn't the first to step down who testified. UPenn President Liz McGill resigned days after the hearing. As for what comes next at Harvard, Provost Alan Garber will serve as interim president as they search for a new leader and new direction. Also, some controversies surrounding the world of Star Wars in the last few days as a new female-led, that being Rey, that's Daisy Ridley. She was in the, I don't know what we call them, the third prequel. What are they called? Laura Sebben's here to try to explain it all to me. Hey, what's up? So I can't get my Star Wars threequels together. Trilogies is the word I'm thinking of, not threequels.
The original is just the original.
Okay.
Then the ones that came out in the 2000s are the prequel, and then the ones that came out just a couple years ago, sequels. Yeah.
Okay, so Daisy Ridley was in all three of the sequels to the Star Wars universe, and now there's at least one movie coming back featuring her. Or have they announced a whole series?
Well, they haven't announced if she's going to be in all of them, but I think she will be. I think she's going to kind of become like the new Luke Skywalker, like the Jedi Master. So there is definitely three, like a sequel to the sequel trilogy.
Okay, but there's controversy because a bunch of D-bags online are losing their shit, right?
Yes.
To put it
Yes,
so eloquently.
There is.
It's a female-directed lead.
Yeah, so it's actually a Canadian Pakistani woman is directing the first movie in this new trilogy expected to come out. And there is a small but loud faction of Star Wars fans online who just have a problem with this, and it's not really surprising to non-angry Star Wars fans because this happened when the first trailer for the sequel series came out, and it was revealed it was going to be a woman who was leading the series, which was Rey, and that the main male was going to be a black person, which was Finn in the series, and John Boyega was the actor's name. And there was like huge backlash from this small but, like I said, loud faction of Star Wars fans. And it's just disappointing to see, because a lot of the comments have basically just been tearing down this new director and her accolades. Like, she's won an Academy Award. She's very talented, and she is a good person to take this on. But just tearing down her achievements, making comments that I'm not going to repeat on here because they're racist.
Thank you.
And then also just saying like, oh, great, like, this is going to tank the series.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're bringing Rey back is going to tank the series.
I love how it's the conservatives who jump on it. Fox News was all over this. So the one thing that I guess people have been bringing up against her, she was on a panel with Jon Stewart, Meryl Streep, talking about her documentary, her Oscar-winning documentary about the honor killings in Pakistan, which is what she did her documentary on. She said, "I like to make men uncomfortable." And a lot of people are attributing that quote to this movie about Star Wars, and the conservative blogs, like Matt Walsh, say this is going to tank. Fox News saying this is why I'd rather watch Star Trek than Star Wars, from a woman who I doubt has seen either of them. But what is it about the culture wars we live in that, like, this is what we see every single time?
I don't know. It's bizarre is the only way I can explain it, because in general, I don't know why you just wouldn't want people to succeed and whatever.
Yeah,
but like this thought that like if a woman is attached to something, or specifically a woman of color, automatically it's going to be the worst thing you've ever seen. It's odd. I don't know why. Well, I don't know why. Those types of people pander to a white audience. And when they feel that white audience is not being served, then they get up in arms about it.
And here's the thing. I'm going to get into this when I talk about the PWHL, because the amount of like garbage, like nobody cares, nobody's going to watch. Here's the thing. Like, not everything is for you. Like, not everything is tailored, designed for you to watch it. Some are for that little girl who wants to grow up to be a hockey fan. You don't need to add your 2 cents.
It's true.
Because you don't like it. Just shut up. Keep it to yourself.
True.
No, nobody is going to applaud you for your hot take that women's hockey isn't as good as men, or a female lead, it can no way be as good as a man. Like that. No, first of all, you're stupid, and second of all, you're not making a good point. And third of all, it's not for you. It doesn't have to be for you. It could be. You might like it if you weren't so closed-minded and ignorant. But that's not the case. We talked to,
part of our coverage of the Star Wars stuff was we talked to an author who had done like research on Star Wars and all this stuff. And we talked about ownership. And a lot of people who consume media feel an ownership over the stuff that they watch. Like, this is mine because I loved it. And then when it gets changed, they get angry because they're like, this isn't what I remember loving. And it's this weird clash of the thing that they love changing. And for some reason, I feel like you might need to go to therapy if you're one of these people. They just can't handle the change, and it bothers them that something that they loved. So you could say Star Wars and the original trilogy having to be about a white man and his successes or lack thereof, and hockey being a predominantly, not that this is like a theme, but a predominantly like white male led sport, and these people just love it so much, and then they feel threatened that something about this thing they love won't be the same or won't make them feel the same because changes have been made to it. And that's such a bad reason to harp on something. And like you said, make dumb criticisms that demean incredible people and women who are like people love. You saw those sold out crowds at the PWHL. Like, it's disappointing that there are people who want to cut down these awesome celebrations.
Yeah. I mean, and, I think we have a story about it today. Joanna was writing the reel about the Peloton instructor shitting on Christopher Nolan's movie while he's in the class. Like, hey, what are the odds that, Christopher Nolan takes this class?
These Peloton classes go out to millions of people.
All she's saying is, like, those are 2 hours of my life I'll never effing get back. But, and, like, you don't need to act, like, we don't need critics for everything, especially in a world. And, like, maybe it's my New Year's worldview. Maybe it's the 5 days of dry January of, like, my whole attitude is shifting. But it's like, I'm a changed man. I had a lettuce wrap today for lunch. Who am I? Who am I? Right? But it's just like, I think, my resolution is not to read the comments. Matt Ingram and I were talking about that. He never reads the comments. I am pretty bad at sometimes scanning what people have to say. But I think, like, just the negativity that people go into life with these days is really, really disheartening.
Some stuff is open for criticism, others isn't. Like, if a movie is open for criticism, if you didn't like it or you liked it, in terms of the Star Wars thing, the movie hasn't even come out yet. So, like, give her the benefit of the doubt, and then. What about hockey, other than, like, if you didn't like a play or you didn't like a call on the ice or you thought a hit was dirty? Nothing about women playing hockey is open to criticism. Like, they're just existing and playing their sport.
And again, there's a chance it might not just be. Maybe it's not for you.
Yeah.
Like, don't watch.
Turn it off.
Turn it off and stay off the keyboard.
Yeah.
I did want to talk to you about this. Kim Kardashian Hollywood, the once wildly popular mobile game that helped catapult her to stardom. Is that true? Would you? This is no. I'm reading the CNN copy here. Shutting down after nearly a decade. It allowed players to mirror Kardashian's life by creating an avatar that works to achieve virtual A-list status by climbing the social ladder.
Oh, yeah.
You were quite the fan of this game, were you not?
Oh, I was. I played Kim Kardashian Hollywood like it was my job. Okay?
Which one were you?
You make your own avatar, so I was me.
Oh, okay.
In the app.
So you had
Laura.
Red hair?
Well, I don't know if I had red hair at the time, but I would have had curly hair. You could change your hair, though, so I definitely probably would have given myself straight hair one day, like an updo the other day. Like, you could change your hair.
So the game was downloaded at least 145 million. This is from Glue Mobile. They previously said back in the day they had 145 million downloads and 160 million in revenue in just the first 2 years.
That tracks, honestly.
It tracks. Why do you say that?
Because I spent a lot of money on Kim Kardashian Hollywood.
Like, actually? Like, actual money? Like, not like in-game, but you had to buy money. Okay, what did the money help you do? Like, get things faster?
To me, it's like any world building game. You get coins. There's always like 2 tiers of money, I guess. Yeah. There's like coins, gems, whatever, and they do different things.
I say it like I don't play like come on. Clash of Clans with my buddies.
Yeah, everybody got into. Don't you remember?
I don't spend real money though.
What was the game that
draw
was
the line there.
Super popular on Facebook? Was it like Farm Zombies?
Farmville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I played that for a bit.
That was big. Anyways, it's any world building game, and you need extra gems or extra. It was K coins to complete.
But everything was K's, right? Like you could change your costume. Or
I'm remembering now because I haven't played it in a couple of years. But K coins was how you bought stuff, and then you need energy to like complete the tasks. Similar, like you're saying, to Clash of Clans and Farmville, and the energy always depleted so fast, and you needed to meet goals, so you'd have to spend real money to get more energy.
I don't think you needed to spend real money.
You didn't have to, but I was a pretty serious player. I would set alarms at my old job.
Did you ever play the Britney Spears or Gordon Ramsay ones, or you were just into this one?
I did play the same company, Glue Mobile or whatever, came out with a Kendall and Kylie version, and I did play that one.
What am I supposed to feel about the Kardashians at this point? Like, can I be annoyed by them, but also like, Kim has kind of made.
But they hustle.
Kim hustles. What did the rest of them do?
I would say Kylie.
Kylie's a makeup girl.
I would say Kylie hustles.
The other Jenner is a model. Chloe.
I don't know. I feel like they've been in the public eye for so long. You're allowed to have whatever opinion of them you want. But what you can't deny them of is that they're successful.
All right, I guess.
They are.
I think Jason Gaidola, who's waiting to come on, got a chuckle out of that one.
They are successful.
He got a chuckle out of that one. You have any resolutions, new year, new you?
I'm trying to do 75 soft. So
okay, so 75 hard, 45 minutes, 45-minute workouts.
Yeah,
10 pages
one has
of a
to be
book.
outside.
Yeah,
10 pages of a nonfiction book, like basically for annoying people. 75 soft is just one 45-minute workout, 3 liters of water instead of
book?
No, 10 pages of any book instead of a nonfiction book because I'm not a robot.
Okay. Oh, what? Nonfiction in the hard 75?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dumb.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Can't it just be a book?
And it has to be a physical book, though. It can't be audiobook.
Yeah. And then 3 liters of water a day instead of a gallon because I'm not trying to cellular drown myself. And then instead of like completely cutting out alcohol, you just limit it.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Unlike my dry January.
It's a little bit more achievable. So as not to discourage you if you find yourself failing at it.
On like January 3rd, I was like, yes, I'm 10% done. Like that's what I'm at. On January 3rd, I was like, all right, I'm 10% done dry January. Today, I like volunteered for overtime. So I'm working all weekend and I work next Saturday too. Because I'm like, can't drink if I'm working.
True.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. I was concerned by the awkwardness of the pod.
Well, yeah, I mean, are you working all 24 hours of the day?
No, but like, what am I, like I work till 11:30 tomorrow.
Okay, that's then no.
I get home at midnight and just pound a few back by myself?
Then that would be a problem and not just a dry January concern.
Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Louie.
Okay, my thanks to Laura Sebben for joining me today. Jason Gaidola will be right here in just a moment, but I did want to get to this story as a 13-year-old has done something that no one ever thought was possible. Because it's not every day that a seemingly endless game is defeated, but a 13-year-old boy from Oklahoma may just be the first person ever to beat Tetris. Willis Gibson, a.k.a. Blue Scuddy, was streaming his game from his bedroom when the screen suddenly froze. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it over my shoulder here. It froze. And his score read 999999. In that moment, he became the first player to reach level 157 and hit Tetris's kill screen, where the game becomes unplayable. That's a feat that had previously only been achieved by AI. Gibson says he's been playing the game competitively under the name Blue Scuddy since 2021. Now, the new challenge is for players to beat the impossible and see how far they can play beyond the point of crashing. And Tetris themselves congratulating Willis Gibson on the victory. I don't know if this is legit, and Jason Gaidola can jump in here because 13-year-old playing tennis or Tetris. Tetris saying, yeah, what a first guy to ever do this, a 40-year anniversary. It seems a little fishy for me.
Well, I'm surprised people are still playing Tetris because I remember
this is the original Nintendo
This is the original
game
one,
too,
yeah. Well, going back to the 90s, but I mean, this is bringing back some old feelings, but I'm like, I just never thought anyone would beat it. But it doesn't surprise me that a 13-year-old is... beat the game because there's some phenoms out there.
Well, the way I was reading it, so like originally people could only get to like level 30, and then it took like a multi-hand technique, and then it took like a multi-finger technique to do it. And so like it's just getting, and like of course it's a 13-year-old, right? Like these kids literally, like we like to say we grew up with the internet, but we can remember a time where there was a dial-up modem. We can remember a time where there was no internet in the house, right? These kids have no idea what that's even like. Did you have a Nintendo? Did you have a Game Boy? What was your game system of choice?
I had a Nintendo growing up. I did have Tetris at one point, but then once I started, not really getting very high up in the levels, I'm like, I'm not going to play this. I'm just going to stick with Mario or something like that. Or Blades of Steel, you name it.
Yeah, I had, I remember our neighbor who used to babysit us as kids had like the big gray Game Boy. And then when I was 10, I got a Game Boy Color, a purple Game Boy Color with Pokemon, and it was the best gift I had ever gotten.
Yeah, very
There's
popular.
still pictures of me like clutching it. Speaking of games, I want to get your thoughts on this because the PWHL made history on Monday as the puck dropped on the inaugural season. It saw Toronto go against New York at the Mattamy Athletic Center on Carlton Street, that being the Maple Leafs Garden. Ingersoll's Ellis Shelton scored the first ever goal in the league. Nice to see this. A women's league, we've seen this before, but this one seems like it's going to stick.
I think it's going to give it its best shot. Mm-hmm. Only I'm in the realm where starting a sports league is seems like the hardest thing to do because it's like starting a business. Not many of them succeed, but I think the way this is set up, it looks like it will stick around. I mean, how do you define success? I don't know. That's pretty subjective. But in terms of like sticking around for at least if it makes it up to 5 years in, then it'll probably stay around. I mean, only because it has one big rich owner who owns all the teams. The marketing kicked off really well. You couldn't ask for a better start. You look at the television production from what I saw, and and the crowd out in Ottawa. So these are the type of things that you want. And I think and it goes back to conversations we've all had as sports fan, whether it was sports fans, whether with you or with Bubba O'Neill. I think the sports fan has changed only because maybe there's just so much out there. How do you compete for those eyes? Where do you? What are you going to offer to a fan that you wouldn't offer to in somewhere else, right? And I think pricing, how do you scale your product is going to be the key factor, because right now it's like, if you look at some of the big sports teams in our area, you want to going to see a game is expensive, right? Can you make this affordable? And if tickets are like $20-$30, I mean, that's a pretty attractive option. Go take your family, go watch a sporting event.
It's the hardest ticket to get in Toronto. All of their home games are sold out. You got bigger arenas. Minnesota's playing in a big arena. Yep. We saw a record for a women's professional hockey game in Ottawa on the next night. More than 8,000 people in wherever the 67s play there. It's blanking on me now.
By the Red Black Stadium.
By the Red Black Stadium. TD Place. Underneath. Yeah. TD Place is the football field. I've been there a couple times, but you mentioned the owner, Mark Walter. The Mark Walter Group is the owner. Mark Walter has a privately held global financial services firm with more than $325 billion in assets. So we talk about the money, and there was a man, Stan Kasten, who was there. Like I said, I covered this story on Monday on CH on the evening news, and they're like, Jana Hefford's coming. She's president of the PWHPA, the Players Association, and they're like, Stan Kasten's going to be made available. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, where do I know this guy from? Like, how do I know this guy? He's the president of the LA Dodgers. He's a part owner of the LA Dodgers. He's got Atlanta. He was the GM for both the Braves, the Falcons at one point, or the old hockey team, the Thrashers, excuse me. This guy's got money. And Mark Walter, a part owner. He owns Chelsea. He owns the LA Dodgers and, of course, the PWHL. So, I mean, money isn't an issue because we've seen the CPL, the Canadian Premier League, operate in a similar way. Very league supported, a lot of money going to the teams. I think I'd like to see it succeed. And like I was telling Laura earlier, not everything's for you. Not everything's for us, right? Not everything's targeted. It should be entertaining. I'd love to turn it on, but I'm more concerned about, being at that game, seeing the girls who can cheer on their players and get to watch them on TV, which has been very hard to do. Right, and I think that's where I'm assuming that's where the first season is going to go. I mean, I believe they're playing about 24 games. In the regular, which makes sense. I mean, 6 teams, and this is the time where you're going to start introducing your players, introducing names. And I know for us, we know the Sarah Nurses of the world. Those are the obviously the faces of the league. But there's probably more hockey players out there that they're maybe they didn't make quite a name on the international scene, but this is the time where we start discovering things about this league, and it's got to go through. And obviously the excitement, the hoopla of it kicking off. It's the honeymoon phase. You got to really capitalize on that and start building your player brands moving forward. And 24 games. It's probably the most appropriate way to start. And that's what Steve Milton. By the way, free plug for the Newsmakers podcast. I had Steve Milton on earlier this week. You can find it wherever you found this show, and that's what he said. He called it a tipping point, comparing it to the Lionesses, the English women's soccer team really taking off, the Spanish women's soccer team really taking off. But he calls it even the idea that these teams don't even have names. Right now, it's PWHL Toronto, PWHL Boston. You would think they're going to have names because there'll be some sort of competition, name the team type thing. But also, they want to make the players the stars. They want to focus on get to know these players, get to know the Sarah Nurses, the Emma Sheltons, and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting and it'll be a lot of fun. Week 18 of the NFL season kicks off tomorrow. Tomorrow being Saturday, depending on when you're listening to this, by the way. But week 18 of the NFL season, are you ready for the NFL playoffs? Yes. I've been, Who's your team, by the way? I've been rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers my whole life. Okay. It's a big week for them. They can still squeak in. I'm a Pittsburgh guy from,
from an American cheering perspective.
Yeah.
But it's been they somehow stick around, right? It's a organization built on excellence, and they haven't been that excellent, but they've just been hanging around and lingering, and now they've brought in a former backup again to give him another shot, but he looks a lot different, Mason Rudolph. I don't know. I mean,
there's something to be said about the Steelers and the way they operate.
There is something to be said about it because it's a communal organization, right? Everyone thinks, oh, what's Mike Tomlin doing? And he's doing that. I go, well, no, because from what I understand, decisions get made between him, the management, and other people from higher up. It's not just it's not a Bill Belichick model where it's judge, jury, and executioner is deciding everything. So there's a lot of elements where decisions are being made, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I don't know. I still like the way they operate, the way they've always operated, because there's been more successes than failures, and they still draft pretty well.
We saw Travis Kelce this week on his podcast talking about Mike Tomlin and the fact that for the 17th straight season, he will have a non-losing season. Right. He'll finish at least, above 500 once again. Pittsburgh media, regardless of whether they make the playoffs, are already saying, should they move on? Travis Kelce had a response to that saying, the media is so dumb. Why do we do the media? A bunch of jackasses, just a bunch of jackasses, just out here talking effing nonsense. One of the best coaches the NFL's ever seen, and possibly get his 17th non-losing season. And then he said it with JC there. Yeah, where are you on the Mike Tomlin train?
Yeah,
are you ready to move on from him?
I think there's a difference between at least in this situation with Mike Tomlin, having an opinion of saying that is he a great coach or is he not a great coach? He is a great coach, but there's also a fair opinion to say maybe it's time for a shakeup, maybe it's time for a new voice. Sometimes 18, 17 seasons, it's. That's
Steelers
a long
only
time.
had 3 coaches in the last 50 years.
I wouldn't be. He has one more year left on his deal. Now, again, I don't know if I see them letting it expire, but maybe that's the best way to do it, is see what's out there, because I think they're going to have to make a decision whether they're going to let his contract expire or not. The bottom line factor is that I still think I think the organization needs to give him a little bit more say on who to bring in on his coaching staff. At least that's what I believe it.
Well, where this team could have been had they moved on from Matt Canada a little bit earlier.
I don't think they would have been any that much better, only because I still think there's a lot of missing pieces on this roster. They have a lot of good pieces, but I'm not convinced on their O-line. They have some talented playmakers, but I don't know if they're fully developed and they're fully ready. You see George Pickens, who's got so much raw talent, but he still has some growing up to do, maybe fine-tuning some of his game.
Need some veterans.
Yeah, we need some veterans, and Kenny Pickett's is not a sure bet. Do I see franchise quarterback coming from him? No, but that doesn't mean he can't be a good starter.
Quarterbacks are such a weird. Gardner Minshew is starting for the Colts.
Yeah.
Against C.J. Stroud for a spot in the postseason. C.J. Stroud's a great story. 2nd overall pick. Shout out to our boy Phil Perkins, who's a big Carolina fan, who traded all their picks to Chicago so they wanted their guy Bryce Young. But this C.J. Stroud guy looks pretty good. You got predictions on who's going to win the big game? The big one. Who's
the Super Bowl?
Going into the playoffs, who do you like?
The Super Bowl?
What teams do you like? Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't know.
Are the Ravens legit?
It's easy to say Baltimore versus San Francisco, but I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I think Cleveland and Buffalo, they get into the tournament. Those are the teams.
Bills have to get there first.
They got to get there, but I think they can. And we've seen it done before, where a team sneaks in and all of a sudden they go on this Cinderella run. So Cleveland and Buffalo, I think, can make things interesting in the AFC. In the NFC, I think people are lost hope on the Eagles. It could be for the Niners to lose, but you never know. We could get that classic, as I was telling Bubba the other day. We could get that classic D-Boys, Niners, NFC conference game. Bring back the old feeling, because Bubba said it the other day. He's like,
I don't like
the NFL knows how to sell its history and its rivalries, and I think it'd be pretty box office to see a match.
Matt Ferrato, our evening camera director, he's saying he likes a Bills-Lions final. Of course, he's a Lions fan, but
that's kind of
you got a lot of work. Not a lot of work to do, but you got some work to do before the show. So I appreciate you making the time here, Jason.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, my thanks to Jason for joining me today, and you know what? My thanks to you as well, because that'll do it for us here on the first Trending Now podcast of 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you follow Trending Now on all of our social media channels. That includes our X page. I said I was never going to call it X. That includes our Twitter page. That includes our YouTube page, TikTok, and on Snapchat. And make sure to like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show, or as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a brand new episode of the Newsmakers podcast with my guest Steve Milton, available now wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or go to chch.com/podcast. Once again, my thanks to Nicole, Laura, and Jason for joining me. My thanks to Mike Corsten for directing this show. Bill did graphics. Alex was the PA. And one more time, thank you for joining us. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.